Welcome back to Blast 6 Europe League Stage 2, match number 3 of the day. We do have BDS, who recently won Gamers 8, going up against G2, who got eliminated at the first day of said tournament. So we're looking at BDS first, who, like I said, won Gamers 8, which they did last year. And when they did that, they then won the major right after. Do you feel like they have the same momentum to be able to repeat that cycle?
I mean, it's a circle with BDS, right? They're either super strong or they're super weak, and we don't know which one we get until we get it. Right now, and looking at them from practice results that I had with G2 and how they were playing, BDS was probably the strongest team in Europe, and I would go on a limb and say that they were the best team in Europe during the entire time last year, like the entire year. Even if they didn't qualify for Copenhagen, they were incredibly strong in practice, like they were demolishing teams. So it's very hard to say. Maybe they're at the top of that circle right now and they're on a fall-off, or they might extend it and have it a little bit longer. Very hard to say, but just an incredible team overall.
Yeah, I think they've got a very, they've got a very tight-knit team. I think that's the one thing that you know from BDS is they consider themselves like brothers to each other, changing rosters and that type of stuff. It doesn't really happen often. And what you can do is you can build a core team around that has a lot of trust in each other. If you look at this team from the outset, they've got kind of one support player, two kind of flex supports, a lurker and a fragger. But Shaiko and Linkfak are that good, and the team is built, and that system is built around them, that it works so well. And when those guys are fragging, like they did at Gamers 8, it didn't go well in Stage 1, but like they did at Gamers 8, they are genuinely terrifying. No team wants to face up against BDS. I think the map pool changes will have helped them. They were one of the best Consulate teams back in the day. BDS hated Villa as well. So I think overall, they've got even stronger. And I know we're talking about a team that didn't even make Copenhagen, but I am genuinely feeling that this is the start of that hype of the cycle, like you say. They've won Gamers 8. Do we start wondering, do they win Atlanta? Do they go to SI? And then they'll break our hearts at SI all over again.
Don't worry, I'm going back to a team and winning SI again. So.
But yeah, you said Stage 1, and we shouldn't beat around the bush here. They didn't manage to qualify for Copenhagen. They didn't show up in that Stage 1. What do they need to do differently to make sure that they do secure that top 3 spot in these 4 playdays that they have?
I mean, if you look at they had this documentary about BDS actually from Invitationals, and when I watched that, it looked like a very disjointed team at the point. As Jack said, they don't do changes lightly, because why should they? Honestly, they have some of the best players in the world. There's no reason for them to change around. But sometimes you will have these little things that people don't always get along. And I think they had a little bit of that during SI. They had that then extended a little bit over Stage 1. And then after that, they seem to have fixed that thing up again. So it's very hard to say where they're at. I think that they're on an upwards trajectory. They're going to really do well this stage, I believe, and they're just going to keep on crushing it.
And when we spoke to them at Gamers 8, they basically said the same thing. They said Stage 1 was a big hangover from 6 Invitational, and they felt that some of their luck at 6 Invitational just went horribly. They reworked a few things, they fought through the processes, they got over some hurdles, and now they're the BDS that they know that they can be with that very high ceiling.
SI, I mean, the world champions last year, G2, they had a great Stage 1 and then made it to the top 8 in Copenhagen. Then Gamers 8, the off-season tournament, didn't go as per expected. Do you think they've had time to recover from that? I
think recovery is possibly necessary. We've seen drastic changes coming out of G2. Going away from Blur, going into Gemini, out of Gemini, straight away. He got, 2 best of 3s at one tournament? That was it. I think the expectations, we actually saw it in the lead up to the video for the intro whilst we was on the break there. G2 are the biggest org, with the best team, with the best players, with the biggest personality. Copenhagen, for me, I know people would be happy with quarterfinals in Copenhagen at a major. G2 shouldn't have been. G2 will not have been happy with going out first day at Gamers 8 either.
I'd have first-hand experience on both of those. There was not much happiness going on in that team at that point, because G2 is the team that expects to win every single tournament that they're part of. Copenhagen, no different. Gamers 8, no different. But the issues that happened, and luckily for you guys, I have the inside scoop. Who would have thought? No, but they struggled a lot with mentality. They focused on the wrong things. I'm going to say we because I was part of it. We focused on the wrong things. We didn't prepare as well, which we should have. I think a lot of them, just mentals were not correct for either Copenhagen or for Gamers 8. And it came back to hit them in the ass. And now they're waking up and they have to realize that something is wrong. I hope that they have done it. I mean, it's my team. I hope they've done it. It's up to them to show us.
And what map will they show it to us on today? We do have our map veto ready to be showing. And what kind of expectations do you have for the map veto? I mean, we'll show it right now. It is going to Oregon, but is that as per expected?
I mean, not really. I was expecting maybe a Skyscraper or a Bank on these two teams. Obviously, we didn't really know between the two teams how they were going to integrate the new maps into the system. We're seeing G2 get rid of Nighthaven and Consulate, whereas BDS managed to, keep them in. However, BDS for me, banning away Bank and Skyscraper, two maps that they love, that G2 are strong at, was a surprise to take us to Oregon, where recently BDS have been weak but will still play, and G2 do like it.
I'm surprised about BDS. The first two bans, Chilean and Border, is not something that G2 have been very confident on, and it doesn't make any sense to get rid of them. Oregon was the best map for G2 when I was there. G2 have been a little bit lucky maybe here.
I want an inside scoop from you right now, Fabian. So G2 are bringing on a player that was an IGL on their previous roster. How will they make sure they don't get lost in the sauce with too many voices in the team?
I think that they need to structure up which area of the round that Uno is allowed to call, because Carl is going to stay, Alemao is going to stay as the main in-game leader. That's just how it is. That's how the team is run. But it needs to figure out when Uno can call. And this is what I expect and what I know is that this is going to be towards the end of the round for the plant setups, that they need a voice of guiding how we set up what we're doing at the end, where do we plant, what are the positions we need for it to happen, and then execute on said part.
And that's the concern for me, is because throughout 2022, we had G2 saying when they had Prana, when they had Citizen, when they had Alemao, all in that team, there was too many voices going on, especially with Doki over-communicating. That's one of the reasons they picked up Blair, was we need a support player who doesn't speak. So if they're going from one single IGL vision that won them 6 Invitational, adding in a second, how will they manage that? Will they get lost in the sauce? It's a big question mark in my mind.
So they can structure up indeed. It is game 3. It is BDS versus G2. It is Oregon, and it is Hap and Fluke.
Yes, it is. It's us.
You cannot get rid of us.
You can't get rid of us. We're all around you. Where are we? Not in front of you. We're behind you.
In your walls.
We're in your walls.
Or right behind the window.
We're the ghosts of Siegemas past. As I said, drifting around hauntingly with the free cam and these wonderful shots of Oregon. We find ourselves here, no longer tripling down onto Skyscraper for what is a classic match and map up between two long-standing teams. Mixed successes this year, I think it's fair to call. On the high, 6 Invitational 2023 winners.
Yeah.
On the low, can get through the qualifiers of Rainbow Rumble versus Heroic.
It's funny how that goes, right? Like,
there's the swings and the misses. BDS, similar story. On the highs, they've obviously recently, Games Without Borders. They had a decent performance at SI. They won a major not too long ago. On the lows, didn't get to Copenhagen. Didn't qualify for that major. Ups and downs.
So both these teams are going to be looking to start it off strong, and it's kind of the point. Like, it's the I think we could call it the El Clasico now of Europe, between BDS and G2.
You say now. I think we've been using
for a
that
while.
for a while.
Yes. Even though G2, of course, have gone through plenty of iterations of the team, whereas BDS has stayed 80% the same throughout the matchup history between these two. By the way, Oregon, very, very basic map. For a while, we called it BDS's best map. I mean, there's a spot called Chico. It tells you enough. However, over the last couple of stages and tournaments, their Oregon hasn't been as strong as it has been. That's why there might be an opportunity for G2 here to find themselves in a good spot to bring this to a very, very close fight between them and BDS.
Oh, 100%. And that's that sort of deciding factor, isn't it? Is that at one point the map can be great for you, at some points it becomes a bit problematic. Look at this sweeping free cam.
This is like so much accuracy that goes into this. Just
Medic Scorsese, I think we've got back on. The Italian Stallion was the previous observer. I'm not sure if they're still here. They're taking a break. He's Medic Scorsese.
The Croatian sensation, yes.
Now, one of the things to sort of note as well is the limitation on SI points. You have less events, less chance, and less opportunity to get those very precious points and get yourself on the board with the potential, position there. BDS, a joint 47th on the list of teams. They only pulled 75 based on how The LCQs went for them. There was nothing that came before that. G2 much higher, sitting 7th because they had a performance at Copenhagen, because they got some in the leagues for finishing high. It's so important for BDS to get off to a good start. It's so important for BDS to get themselves to Atlanta, because otherwise they're not going to be at SI.
Well, that's the thing, right? We said it before, like, if you throw your first stage away, it's going to be truly difficult to get back into it, because there's no more 3 stages, no more 3 majors to get those points. It's only coming down to 2 stages, 2 majors now. If you throw away your stage, you're not at the major either. It's just how it's most likely going to go. So 47th is not very high up the list, as there's only 20 teams that get invited in the end. Lem's taking the first bit of contact there. Actually hits Virtue with the Gaunt 6.
Ow.
Not quite sure if that blocked whatever he was trying to go for at that point.
It's like get down, Mr. President.
Yeah, sort of, but then on a piece of utility.
Yeah, for bulletproof. All right, the Valcam's getting maybe a bit of a
still
read
up there,
on some
yeah.
information that comes through. Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate timing for Alem. Saves the bulletproof. Efac's been able to get himself tucked around close in the corner with the Nook, and he's ready to put some pressure. They found the open hatch. They want to try and find their eyes inside the G2 site earlier rather than later. There's the external Fenrir. Stops the route, and there's the Valcam.
Such a good one.
Stops that approach. There's the eyes on it, and there's... oh, the grenade. There's no real stopping that. Ooh, the pop up around the back, though. Hello, Alemao. The sneaky player, the Valkyrie, revealed at the end like the problem for the twist. Pre-fires the angle. Efac and Shaiko win out fights apiece. Alemao's able to get LMs. They have the kit above the hatch. There's loads of time here. They want to see if they can maybe cement this single kill onto the site itself before they try and push elsewhere. It's Virtue tucked further and further back inside the corner, has a bit of safety to work with, but the longer he goes untested, I mean, look at the health of Shaiko and Efac. It does not take much from either of these two guns. Now Virtue joins them. Alemao is the only one with any health beyond 5. Who's going to get this first scrape? Virtue. Great take. A lot of pressure now onto Shaiko. He's got to have the drop. The C4's over the top. Doesn't have the bite. Shaiko's got the kit, but he's got 20 seconds. Well played and rotated off here by Alemao. He's been able to waste all the time. That bulletproof that was saved by Virtue is giving all the read on what's happening ahead here. Smashes and shoots it out. He's going to try and hold down for the plant. Baits the first fight. Doesn't come his way. They've ring around Rosie the other way around. They're still holding on to Laundry. They don't need to get it. Alemao, with the title of G2, takes the first round.
Have to say, we're on free cam there. We just see the tracers coming up from behind and 2 bodies drop. That was a very cinematic moment. Cover 3 right there. One of the first I'm sure we've got that way. Great flank coming through. Great use of the Valkyrie cam. And G2 winning that round. Well, not convincingly, because it did get quite close in the end. But that diffuser being dropped and Alemao having that control, forcing the rotations to come through. Definitely helped them out there. So first defensive round goes to G2. As they go up to the top floor now. The bedrooms.
I mean, all right. Bit of a false start there. BDS, one sort of play, one player had that entirely in their hand. And that's just from missing a Valkyrie cam. If that cam had obviously been caught and gone, there's no way Alemao's swinging anywhere near that level of confidence. But the timing was there. It was pinch perfect. He knew he expected the 2 fights. And then catching the third follow-up as well against the Dockerby, who just swung to one angle, but they'd already popped up and moved to the other side of stage. It is one of those rough rounds that you just have to sort of ride out and go, okay, we still had good motions. We still had the good power position, and they still had the opening 2 kills into their favor, which G2 will be well aware of.
Shows you the importance of repositioning as well, Alemao there, not sticking in the same spot, just hopping onto a different little part of the room and then just changing rooms entirely, making sure that they are kept guessing on whether or not you are still in that position or not. BDS with the drone game is going to be trying to clear the map as soon and as effectively as possible by making sure they have to cover the least amount of ground with their faces as possible. And as the drones roll through, very much aware of a lot of the clear area around the security room, which is where Virtue is located, so that might be the very first gunfight we're headed into soon.
Yeah, obviously Virtue has the choice to drop down the hatch if they want to get out of there. They're there to maybe bait some attention, some utility, and, you know, you can see teams that are on the sort of roll a player underneath that hatch to be ready to catch them. It makes things riskier. But look, there's, you know, 2 drones that are taken out. They have the hot ping. The grenades are going to bounce almost perfectly onto Virtue. He's going to stay standing and get out of there. They obviously don't know how close they were to getting the kill there. But the pressure is certainly being felt. Another grenade somehow gets the drop onto Alems. Oh, that's a bit tragic for the Frenchman there.
That must be very tragic. You open up for the skeleton key, you don't see anything, you expect it to be clear, and then suddenly someone drops up, gets that kill. Now, some spots coming through. Likafak already very close up towards the door, and Shiro going for that plant. A C4 just flew over, didn't quite get the kill, so another attempt will be made. Benja looking to see if he can get the back of him, but that won't quite succeed, and it's only up to Rinshiro now, and a flawless round for G2 to lock off that round here up on the top floor.
I mean, there it is, that final bit of aggression. They had, once again, that cheeky opening kill, a sort of missed moment punished against BDS there. It's the 2nd round in a row for G2. They felt themselves a little bit. You could see they had that confidence to rotate, to swing in for those later engagements. And then from that point onwards, I mean, BDS still tried to make the sun shine when they had a little bit of hay. They had the holes on the back. They moved away from the C4 itself. They were able to get the top of white stairs. They weren't scared about still trying to push for the attack, but I mean, it's always rough to sort of go off what was a close round that could have been yours to a round that is a flawless in your opponent's favor. Alemao as well, 3 more kills for his tally that round.
Alemao really having a great game so far. He's doing everything he needs to do and just a little bit more for G2 in this game. And it's only 2 rounds, it's a lot to say. Again, that great flank, that really allowed G2 to pick that one up. Last round, quite steady. Extension towards security. See the mirror windows being put out there. It is quite difficult to deal with that as the current setup stands. Kind of need to take control of the white stairs to see if you can take the mirror window from that direction onwards. Or you have to expand a Selma or Twitch drone that is currently in the pockets of Likafak. So they do have options, so they need to explore which ones they want to go for. Seems to be that the Twitch drone is indeed the one they opt to go for. That's one. It's taken out right after.
There it is, the new vintage TV static. Oh, Ifak wanted them to double dip there, and Alemao actually wants to, and to be fair, when he's 7-0, you don't blame him for wanting to keep trying to find these fights. Virtue, obviously tucked. Fenrir again, making a big appearance. And again, you know, we sort of highlighted the other new operator, Ram. I do not see this as a map or a site where you'll really have picked and played, as Fabian said, and he knows a thing or two. When you've got Buck, when you've got Sledge, you know, Buck being able to get the vertical above, Sledge with grenades, it's really tricky to find the exact opportunity that you would bring in the Ram. I think there's only really 1 or 2 sites where it has that trade-off. The grenade doesn't quite get anything. Eaten up, I think, by a disc, you would assume, caught that.
Yeah, I think I went back through the window and exploded in the smoke, which is why there was a lack of any particles coming off. Yeah, lack of anything.
Yeah.
It's just smoked off.
Just smoke.
At least that's the disc cleared.
Yeah. That's a positive spin.
Reaches open up.
I traded that disc with my grenade.
That's what the disc is for, so I guess you could go for that way. Shaiko holding some verticality out here. He's looking to see if anybody's over-rotating a little bit. Something that we have known previous G2 iterations to do every now and then, but it seems like they're not quite catching anybody right now. Virtue preparing himself to go for a bit of a flank as well, as Likafak gets the very first kill. Lems follows that up as well, and now BDS find themselves in a 2-man advantage as Virtue is stuck in the attic.
Hops back out. I mean, they're the defender. They're sort of making their presence known, but at the same time, it does give a bit of the game away of, well, I know one's here, so we can maybe put the pressure onto the site. With Alemao still continuing his reign, he gets that. Uno doesn't have the pop-off there. His C4 gets a bit caught, and Shiro takes a lot of damage as Alemao tucks himself just inside showers. If they don't know that he's here... Oh, he didn't hear the hop, but he still gets the kill. Finds Efak, tries to tuck himself into a new position. They've dropped inside kitchen. There's the fight, and it's Alemao's for a triple. Will he get any more for the round? Shaiko gets 1, Virtue gets another. Alemao's a bit hungry for it. Shaiko in the core of the site with the kit. Well, that's not active, so he can sort of get himself played here. Virtue could activate it if he really wants, but Alemao's really desperate for the fight. Virtue gets the end of it. I mean, Alemao 4 then 3 then 3.
Sometimes players just have these games, Emmy, where everything connects. They're always in the right position. They're always making the right call. They just seem to have the upper hand over their opponents at any given time. And Alemao is definitely having a couple of rounds of that right now. No matter what he does, he's always in the right place, doing the right thing. And yes, he should have been taken care of, actually, by the jump in next to the shower window, but the player didn't watch his angle because they didn't know he was in the shower there, which gave him the opportunity, the extra half a second he needed to turn back around, get that kill, and continue on fighting. But Alemao's really onto something right now. 10 kills after 3 rounds. And G2 are piggybacking off of it. Let him just do whatever he needs to do, and we'll win rounds on the back of it.
I think it's because he knows Fabian is watching.
Okay, so previously when Fabian was on the desk, he just basically trashed G2 over everything they did.
Yeah,
so right now he's like, we cannot have that again, because then he will come back to our team again, which is what he did previously.
Well, yeah, it could be that. I think I think if G2 has a good game, from now on, it's Fabian's doing. He'll be like, I taught Carl everything he knows. If things fall away from him, this is what they're like without me. This is what they're like without their father figure.
It's no win-win here for G2.
It's the sort of thing, though. Obviously, you know, Benja hasn't been able to get himself onto the sort of board. Doki has only just got himself onto the board. We know what those two players are capable of. Virtue has always been that consistent sort of part of the team for however long he's been with them at this point. And then it's just Alemao show where he keeps getting them down. I was going to say it at the sort of beginning when Shaika got 2 kills in the first round, is you want to make sure that Shaika doesn't activate. At this point, you need to find a way to deactivate the Brazilian.
It's very difficult to dismantle Brazil in Siege. They've been at it for quite a while. Transfers in almost every single region. I don't think there's any of the out of the main regions. I don't think we've any Brazilians out there, but they usually do well, whether it's in NA or in EU. Of course, in the Brazil League itself, really a big heart for the game there.
Oh, as the burn comes through, there's not the Valk that's going to go for the catch.
Left, actually.
At this point, you do.
Yeah, so he used the skeleton key in case a C4 or anything was being tossed up. So just making sure there was no instant follow-up from a C4 as the serial laser gate got bursted. Of course, using the shotgun there has very wide width. With the power, someone's allowed to take it off, yes.
Yeah, you can see that they obviously still have Doki tucked into this corner. The outline is true, and they're waiting for maybe a drop, maybe a hatch. It's also the extra width. That other blue outline, though, that is a red player. That is EFAC. Not too far away and ready to swing. And obviously, if they get the read on where Doki is, they could put a lot of pressure onto that position. In the meantime, Shaiko is doing his best to start warming things up on the back end of Freezer. Uno's there to offer some support. There's the reveal on the player. Do they know about Uno moving back in? Here's the pressure I talked about. The drop on the hatch, the swing round on the back is well watched and is traded out. But generally, we've seen a bit more success come into the favor here of G2. They're ready to pop this. Doki has remained in his corner, and that's the risky thing, because that push was built on the idea of we know that he's here. EFAC wants to take the swing with the secondary, pre-fires and does a lot of damage, with Shaiko getting Alemao and finally putting them out of their misery, but Virtue gets that trade-off. It's just EFAC left, 20 seconds. There's a player either side of the door. They're pre-firing the angles to find the hope, and the kid is cold on the back end. It is an impossible sort of entrance here, because you swing one way, there'll be a player on the other. He's able to find the first. At this point, it's just the tuck behind the shield. 9 seconds. Do they know where he is? They're hitting the hammer, and Virtue.
That was way too close.
I mean, as Grace would say, it's risky biscuits.
It was very risky being out there. There was so little time left. You could have just held out on the back of the site, let him have that little ground, and then take him afterwards. But okay. Oh, yeah, we got it. They got that round. It's 4-0. It's a timeout for BDS currently, as they do have some stuff to talk about, because Alemao's been on a rampage. Not so much this round. Just bucked up a single kill. But the rest of G2 there as well when they're needed.
There was a period of time where BDS weren't really a take time out team. One that they sort of would take the game as it came at them, attacks and losses. But here it's, I guess, that strange mix of frustrating, because it's not that they've entirely been blown away in this 4-0. The first round, as we've highlighted, was a great flank. The second, a little bit more in the control of G2, but the third and the fourth there as well, it's still a battle. It's still a brawl. There was a point in the third round, let's not forget, where it was sort of a man advantage. They had 2 extra bodies and control of the site, and G2 still just bit back. That last little 10% of the round of getting the diffuser into the site without having it dropped cold, BDS have just struggled to make that connection this game.
Yeah, we wondered how was G2 going to be coming out of these roster changes, because of course a lot has changed, right? Like, BDS just came in, won G8, basically chilled for the rest of the offstage, didn't really have to play any of the other tournaments like Combine or Rumble. G2 failed to qualify, had disappointing performances, so they made some changes. Gemini had probably like one of the most shortest stints on the team ever because of that. 2 best of 3s and replaced by Uno at that point. And because of all those changes, you wonder like how much time did they actually have to prepare themselves for what is to come. And so far, they have been very commendable against BDS here, really not giving them too much of an opportunity to get rounds on the board. Again, it's not like a blowout, but they're making sure that BDS is just not able to cross that finish line time and time again.
Well, BDS, they had boots in, and as I said, the final 10% is getting that diffuser locked and loaded on the floor. Everybody has those cool black outlines currently. Everybody's goth. Look, apart from, I think, Virtue, everyone has a black outline.
Virtue still has his line in his life right here. He's like, just continuing strong. I know Alemao he's stealing the show here, but I'm looking to get myself properly on the board as well. I mean, he's 6-0 right now, so he's definitely on the board.
But that's it. I mean, the rotate there was fantastic. He took the drop out. I think they sort of got an idea the pressure was coming across. They've rotated their way background just to the top of the stairs. They're hoping somebody drifts down, but it's being droned and checked. They'll get that down here, because if you try and shoot at the top, chances are you're going to be locked in. They're getting awareness on the back of that position. A bit of a fight towards Doki as well. Brede wants to go on the hunt here, but the rotate has actually come round. The hot ping has pulled itself away, and well, it's not that Virtue's gone uncontested. Lems isn't far away, but they're just sort of keeping them at that angle. Uno takes a lot from a grenade underneath, wants to lean into the fight. If someone comes back round, Virtue does finally take a bit of damage, but there it is. Shaiko caught out by Uno. Virtue wins against the Lems. And for all my talk of I'm pretty sure they know he's there, apparently the Aussie is able to keep his head tucked.
Staying hidden just enough. Alemao, probably the next one to take a... He's not even being checked. Leak of Fact didn't even check his corner out there. You are headed towards the site. You do not check your right when there's a giant gap in that wall. He gets punished for it. This is not like BDS, what we usually see. Usually they're very clinical about spotting these players out, knowing where they are, and replying about and to it. Now, Virtue has been spotted. It's been forced off. Brede's holding the door. It's just staying put there.
I mean, holding the door, holding the white van door with 30 seconds left on this side attack. It's horrible. It's just not good. You feel it. It's horrible. You're in a situation. You're having to watch for jump outs and down to the pistol, and there's the pickup. Virtue obviously got that because of Benja throwing himself out a faraway window, but the fact that they can keep the hard breach stuck behind the white van, very separated from Ranchero on the double window, that late into the round. I mean, it's like pushing a player back into their own spawn. It's a little bit tragic of a round.
That was a tragic round, yes. Not even a little bit. It's just the lack of information on BDS that really bit them there. Multiple kills coming in on the back of it. And then they know where Virtue is, but, you know, it's 30 seconds left in the round. You said it. And you're holding a garage door 50 meters away from the site. Well, 30 more like. 50 is a bit much, but still, like, too much removed from the site to be of an actual help. And that's just pain. You don't want that. You need to be fighting at the side at that point in time, or have the numbers advantage where you can be afforded to be watching a flank like that. Because if a player is in a garage like that and you cannot kill him, you're basically a one-on-one trade. But if you're only in a 2v4 at that point, that means you're leaving your one teammate in a 1v3 left. Not great. And one more round for G2 on the defense before they swap over to the attack. And that means that they have the opportunity for a flawless half to come through. And by the way that they have been going at it, I wouldn't be surprised if that is indeed what we will be seeing in about 3 minutes from now.
Can BDS pull a single lifeline round here, or will this turn into a bit of a tragic opening day? As we sort of alluded to at the start of this, the importance of this split has a higher weight for BDS because of their sort of lack of SI points. Every single one of these playdays becomes a bigger risk, and especially when it's against a team that has already put a mark on that board of we want to be at SI. Hell, you're both SI teams. One of you's got the win on it.
Prepped C4 from Benja. There's a right in the right above it, so he's going to be able to find a guaranteed success if they move through. And Breeday's definitely looking for that. Camera's up. He hasn't spotted with his drone. He's actually lost his drone out there, so second one will go out. Will he see the drop? Loses that one as well. Very uncharacteristic here, but now they know he's in there, so his C4, as soon as he hops on the bat, it's going to be blowing up.
I mean, there's still pings. They're still ready and waiting for this to cook. There's the plant. It's turning into a little bit of a minefield. It's really like...
It's Minesweeper.
I mean, don't take a step, you know?
100 seconds, still no control from the side of BDS. And as soon as they do start moving in, they might as well get blown up by C4. Benji, he's still waiting for it. Doki's down below. I believe he has a prep C4 as well. Maybe Virtue Virtue has it as well. Doki might do it at some point as well. So BDS, they have that top floor now, but there's still so many explosives down on the ground. They know someone's out there. It's actually Ram being able to destroy that C4 with that gadget. And there's a bit of panic right now from G2 as suddenly all the floors start opening up above him.
Well, here's the use of the RAM. As I said, you're going to see it on a couple of particular sites, and at this point, when they're getting you from underneath, this is sort of the perfect operator to do it. Tear everything up. The amount of destruction gives you a lot of angles to work with. They've suffered a bit on the vertical, but here, removing those C4s, removing those players, kind of the perfect opportunity to drive it through. Shaiko finds Uno, 3 versus 5. They were in this situation before on this site, and it didn't go their way, so it's not quite written yet, but they seem to have more of a presence of mind and just where things are, and they want to angle themselves up, obviously, onto this back end. And I say this site, the blinds come through, they pop the Fenrir gadget. Ranchero wants to tuck on the corner, but they're low, they drop high. There's one more. Alemao, he's caught in the reload. At the same time, Benj is able to find a kill on the back end as well. Takes a lot of damage, but, you know, the 5 versus 3s, now the 3 versus 2 versus the rotate round onto the back. They take the drop on the hatch, just miss it post-plant. BDS have the stage. Can they keep it?
So to Cheetah to try and find out where the plant is. The first kill goes away after the post-plant. Alems finds Benja. 1v3 for Virtue. He still hasn't died. We'll find one. No, someone is going to be around the stairs more than likely. But where is that second player that is still alive? That's the big question Virtue has right now. One outside, one unknown. Going for the shotgun, hoping to find it first. Oh, doesn't get it from the back. Bride shuts him down. And to get that lifeline on BDS's side, Virtue finally drops as well. And that gives them just that little bit of extra for the second half.
They got a round. They have one round, one lifeline, one little bit of padding to make sure that the next blow isn't lethal. But it is not very thick. It is not going to be the longest survivor. And you've got a long half ahead of you if you want to be the team to push this over. We obviously saw a bit of a back and forth in the previous map, but then things started to sort of slip into a favor. And you know, the very first had a tale of a lot of decision making made in one half that just became a little bit insurmountable by the end of it. Here, BDS, can you try and build yourself a nest egg of rounds? Can you at least take the first couple?
Now, G2 have already made up a plan. You see Alemao on that blitz. You know what's going to be happening. That is more than likely going to be an elbow push. Probably combined, though, with a bit of pressure from elsewhere to make sure that not all the guns are going to be aimed at that blitz as soon as it starts plowing through the field. But that is basically a signature G2 play. They've done that so many times before, and, well, they have found mixed success with it, but more than often than not, they've found a round win on the back of it. So Alemao is probably just going to be waiting, opening up that barricade first or droning in his teammates before he starts moving through into elbow.
Doki hasn't quite had the impact bender as well. I kind of highlighted them as two big gunners, and yeah, okay, when you've got a player go 9-1 and someone go 13-2, it makes sense. You can see why. But now, as you've got them leading in on the Iana, you've got them trying to lead the charge on that gun game, this is your opportunity to start putting some of those numbers into your own pocket and saying, hey, it's not just the Alemao Virtue show. They have some of the read on the approach here. They've obviously got the blitz still in pocket. Shaiko is in the position named after him, so he's more than happy and ready to go for the swing as the pressure and break comes across the hatch.
Now, it's going to be important for BDS to keep control of Shaiko and elbow at the same time. That way, blitz is never going to be able to waltz in too far. And Alemao's still walking around. He's trying to find himself an entry point. Hasn't quite decided yet where he wants to enter from. They know where Shaiko is. They have spotted him out with a drone. As he's happy to take that fight onto the staircase, Rinshiro is just putting up those discs to make sure that there's no projectile just being tossed in, ending their life. Drones ahead, and that means that Alemao might soon follow.
Waiting for an approach as, you know, gadgetry has popped out. BDS playing a bit of the long con waiting game here. They've obviously got the fires, the boyos, and a perfectly played grenade. That is unfortunate siege timing. There, Shaiko. I mean, he rounded the corner as it dropped and went red. Pushed and forced by the players on the back end, but still, terrible moment.
That kill is so important as well because it removes the Shaiko player, and that basically allows Alemao to not worry about his back that much. He can fully focus on pushing through towards the actual elbow now. Of course, Likafek is out here, but he needs to worry about the hatch as well. So as soon as Alemao starts to push, Ben just probably going to give that a little check and try and see if there's someone out there. But actually, they might not know he's in here. Flashbangs are coming through. Another grenade gets tossed in. Alemao takes a lot of damage as he starts pushing.
Now, as they're trying to get themselves tucked onto the corner, it's pretty much a blue kill feed here, and there's the end of it. Tucked in, tucked out. It was just a perfect execute. Doki watched Alemao die hilariously, and then picked up the pieces on the back end of it. I mean, it couldn't have saved him, but it's always funny.
Bit of a chaotic execute there because Likafaki was underneath the hatch. They weren't aware of it, but he missed all his shots in the vector as they jumped down, or at least he hit like 3 maximum because he went down to about, 10 HP. And that means that G2 were able to just continue going. They were unaware of him. He should have been the saving grace there for the side of BDS in that round, but G2 able to proceed and succeed. Find themselves with a 6-1 lead right now, looking to humiliate BDS upon the return in stage 2.
6-1 G2, and you sort of expect a game from either of these two teams. And let's be honest, with the history of at least these two orgs going against each other, you have had one-sided results for both of these two teams. You have had standout games for a lot of these players that are sort of on these rosters, but this is the opening play day. I mean, it's G2's favor. It's G2's lockout here. They've got one of the toughest asks ahead of them, which is to rotate round. That 1-round buffer has been instantly ripped off. That armor is gone. You've got to try and Braveheart your way through the rest of this.
Now, of course, the shotgun's got a buff, and sometimes we saw an Amaru with the Supernova, with a suppressor on top of it. I have a feeling we're going to see that a lot more right now because the range has just been increased so much, the damage as well, just the amount of pressure you can quickly put up, and basically, especially when you swing into a window, all you need is one shot to survive, whereas with the G8, for example, you need a couple more. Just gives a lot more versatility to that Amaru to quickly make a play up a hatch through a window or anything like that. They're aware of someone out there. They know what Likafak is. Oh. weren't able to quite connect to him, but they knew he was there, so at least the threat is averted. But Likafek also knows that they are droning. He spots that camera. He knows they're in that bus. Just going to be debating whether or not he wants to go for a fight or not.
I mean, look at EFAC going around the back of Doki. Does Doki have a full awareness? He's sort of angling towards one route. EFAC doesn't want to entirely throw himself in because he knows he has a bit of stretch, and Help does get himself glimpsed past the window, though, and he's at least drawn a lot of focus onto time. They've maybe got the player out of that position. More than that, Benja gets rid of the camera, gets rid of both cameras, and gets himself rotated. Oh no! Brede was sat waiting. Benja just with the flick and the change towards the head of the player, left with not much health, but does leave with Brede's name on his kill feed. And now with one less player, with some of those walls starting to close, they at least get the end of that route. As they're tucked into the corner, Alem sits and waits patiently. They're looking to try and take control of Armory, and the hop in on towards Attic.
Need to make a play here soon, G2. Even numbers. Need to find some more control. Shaiko finds Doki, but instantly Alemao found Likafak as well. So a bit of a one-for-one trade. Shaiko aware of the fact someone came through Attic and finds him as well. Favor now, BDS with 40 seconds left on the clock. Uno gets the shot down, but not quite the kill. Shaiko seems to have activated this round.
I mean, you need him when you need him, don't you? 30 seconds, a 2 versus 1. Ranshiro has the watch on the right-hand side of BDS. They get their second round, but they're obviously so far from being out of the woods. Yet they've got to try and thread the next 4 together into their favor. They take dorms. Do they go back down to Laundry to try and have something a little bit more secure? Do they keep the rotation? Because either way, they've got to try and win their third site, whether they play it now or after. It seems like they're going to opt for Laundry as of this moment. What changes? What can they have to be a little bit more confident on the close down? Alemao's already eyeing up that blitz again.
Not surprised. Could still be changed out, of course, but just brings a lot of pace, and suddenly it flushes out the elbow. Of course, they were quite lucky with Shaiko walking into that grenade in that last round that were down here. That basically opened the entire side up, because as soon as he was removed, you basically lose that bit of pressure from the Shaiko spot, which basically puts you into a bit of a pincer as the blitz, because if you don't go through towards the elbow, you'll be shot in the back from the Shaiko spot. If you go for the Shaiko spot, you'll be shot in the back from the elbow area. So Shaiko being removed from there like that, basically for free, that was going to be very helpful for the sides of G2. Now, they have swapped out the blitz. They've brought in the Monty, and that might mean they're going for a bit more of a crowd control state. They're going to be trying to be more oppressive, just being out there, being present, and with that being a true pain, really. But it seems like they've spotted that there is nobody around in elbow, instantly opening that up and putting Alemao inside of the objective.
I mean, that's sort of it, isn't it? He's driven himself all the way up. He's looking for the angle on towards elbow, but it's gone. It's sort of is a kind of loud call of, well, we're here and putting pressure on. Where are you? The breakthrough onto the wall itself. EFAC's going to step himself a bit closer. There it is. The mute jammer gone, and you know he's pinging all of this, saying, "Look, I need a little bit more support." Shaiko's on the shoulder, Renshiro's trying to tuck himself down on the back, and if he sees the Monty on the swing, he might get a bit lucky. But there's the read instead from them. They're trying to get themselves rooted back. Doki suffers a little bit from the long spray, but they have this support structure from just this direct drive of the Monty. They've cleared a lot of the space, but one of the things they have in is a Lems and an operator who fluctuates and flirts with the idea of free space and retaking it. They've got to try and maybe find this fight now, and instead it's G2 whose eyes are being drawn further away.
Now, a minute has only passed, though, and they've basically taken the full pillar under control, and as Virtue moves in and takes Alems, suddenly that top floor starts to falter a little bit as well. Alemao's getting quite some good information out here, knows about 2 players, their locations, meaning only 2 are left to be seen, and Benji, he's holding for a rotation out there. They're still expecting someone to be up on the top floor, as there's 3 in the site right now, 4 actually in the site right now, means that they are waiting there for nothing, but Alemao just moving in, he's going to be getting confirmation soon that everybody's in sight.
I mean, it's just this, isn't it? Reading that wall that is consistently bleeding that information back. EFAC obviously steps into what was put before him. The C4 wants to go over the top, but he realizes how much pressure's there, so instead finds the fight, and there it is. Renshiro pops off, but Benja at least gets Shaiko. Virtue and Bride trade out body to 2 versus 2. 50 seconds, and EFAC finds a pocket of space onto the back of Frieza, leaving just a Monty. The man who sort of started all this pressure however long ago is eyeing up the idea of being the only end to it. Has to go with a pistol sling over the shoulder, and you can see BDS, they're just giving him enough to draw his focus, but not enough to do anything on the back of it. The goo mine in his foot is slowly going to eat away at him. He's got to lean into an engagement, because as soon as he stops and tries to pull this out, likelihood is they're going to try and close this pressure down. There it is, steps even closer with no kit, 20 seconds, and no health either side of him. He's doing the best that he can with the little he's got to work with, but look at that, they're just bullying him at this point, forcing themselves closer and closer and making him drop this and then pull back. There's still not the first, sprayed all around the man itself, but out of time.
Did whatever he could there with that shield, but I mean, you really want to have an automatic gun at that point in time. BDS definitely respected him there, though, in the end engagement, not really wanting to go for overrunning him, knowing how deadly Alemao can be with that pistol. So respected him there, made sure that they were taking it with the amount of time they needed. Now the tertiary side is on Emmy. They need to win this one as well if they want to elongate this game, if they want to be trying to force themselves towards points for today.
I mean, how much further can we sort of get into this? 6-3. At what point as G2 do you sort of go, okay, where's the difference? Maybe it's after this. Maybe it's after a site where you're looking at a tertiary site. I said it before. You've always got to come here. You've always got to come to a fight, whether it's on stage, whether it's inside dining. If this goes away from them, I mean, at that point, things might get a little bit more dicey. We've had some good moments. The sort of flat 5 fight that's coming through from BDS has been solid, but it can't not be. If there's a one slip, if there's one mistake, that's all she's sort of written about the game.
That's it, just a single slip up, and G2 to have that freedom of experimenting here, of just bringing the kind of game they want to. And we see the blitz coming out from Benja, we see the line coming out from Alemao. Of course, we know what kind of a hold this will be. For me, the question will be, what kind of take will it be in the response to it? Are we going to see a backstage take? Will we see a kitchen take? Or something completely different? Maybe from the lobby. Open up those walls, try and get a plant in there. Opportunities they could go for here, and BDS cannot be prepared for all of them at the same time.
They're trying to eye up maybe a quick close break here, but Lems is the swing on Zulu, holding the angle. Shaiko again has drifted to offer some support. Looks like they wanted to bounce a grenade there for a second, and Shaiko is there, perfectly ready to lean into it. As I said, the call came from Lems where they are. He's looking to get the next fight. Cannot win that out though. Uno takes a lot of damage. The man with the heart breach in the kit is at least taking the risk and getting them back into this even hand, but it seems like they want to pull away from the plan. They sort of said, okay, well, we've got some success here, but not enough to lock it in. Oh, Alemao through the window, drops EFAC.
Great play there, getting that drone in, localizing where the Ella was playing, and instantly going for that push because the shotgun wasn't on point yet. Benja taking some damage as the feet are exposed whilst walking around with that blitz shield, but the man advantage is definitely there for G2. A minute 30 left on the clock as well, and they're basically scurried around the map a little bit, so they're not all in one place. They're still looking to try and take fights from multiple different directions here, which could either hurt them or really work in their favor here, as BDS is looking to dig in a little bit deeper, but they seem to be aware as Alemao has a camera onto Shaiko there. All they need now is just a player that can deal with it.
Well, can they deal with it? The drop of the hatch is the first catch for Shaiko. He's looking for the second. He shoots high and low, but Bride's the one that gets Uno on the back end, and they've got to try and just roll on by. There they are, dipping their toe into the site. They still have a bit of the vertical control and caught in the middle of a Fenrir mine. They're getting that smoky cover, and just slips on by Renshiro, but with 50 seconds, can they isolate a player? There is a ping, but Shaiko has the play. Virtue's removed from the board. They're angling themselves to the top of White Stairs, but the C4 pushes 4 into the favor of BDS.
It's a better late than never kind of moment here, with Shaiko waking up just in time, being able to put these kills their way as they go on. BDS find themselves with 4 rounds now. 2 more to go before they find themselves with a point on the board. So tactical timeout gets called by G2. They need it. It seems to be slipping away from them slightly. They do manage to find themselves in advantageous positions, but then Shaiko just pulls themselves back in it. And you could go at it in the last round. Alemao droned Shaiko, then went off, tried to take the fight himself. You need to have someone to drone for you at that point, because as soon as he went off, Shaiko was able to move into a separate position and catch him off guard. Whenever you're dealing with a player like that, you need to make sure that everybody is focused, or at least more than one person is focused on removing him from the playing field.
You take the timeout, they take the conversation, because at this point, you're going to be looping around to sites and places that you've already potentially lost. Storms is up on the board, and, well, then we'll be at Laundry. I was going to say, we're not going to be at Dorms, because if you lose this, then the game's done. 2 more chances from 5 chances to 2 left of locking this out here, G2, before you find yourself fighting for pittance points. You find yourself battling with, again, a team that needs everything.
That's it. They need everything to get themselves in a good position for SI. There's no slacking for BDS. Like, starting this off with a loss, it's going to be very devastating for them. Starting this off with a 7-1 loss would have been even more devastating, because we all know how important rounds can be eventually in a tiebreaker. So them getting as many rounds as they are right now is already being helpful, but they want those points instead. They need to bring this to overtime so they have a little bit of a leg over the other teams that have lost today. The other team that has lost today. Considering there's groups, only one other team that lost today.
Yeah. Just clearing that one up.
Point still stands. You want to get points.
Yeah, it's, you know, points mean prizes. Famously. The biggest prize is SI.
That will be the goal for both these teams. G2 already, of course, managed to make it to the major, make it to the top 8 of the major, perform quite well in a regular stage, so they have a lot of points. As you said, I believe they were 7th place, compared to the 47th place of BDS. They won G8, but that doesn't give you any points. So, as great as it is for them, it doesn't help them for this stage.
And Shiro's holding out with Uno, very quick to break this wall. Remember that, you know, he was in this position to get one of the last kills at this point. Whether it was an angle he felt confident in, he's not going to feel the same this time. Forced slightly further back. Maybe a little bit more tradition here from G2's approach is going to cause a little bit more, you know, fear from the respect coming from the side of BDS. Benjo wanted to bounce that grenade and remove the cameras this time. Alems is playing on the far side with the 1.5. And hoping to get the catch on the back end of it. He's sort of saying, come over here and fight me.
It's definitely open for that.
Yeah, they're saying not yet. He has the rotate. They have the chance of maybe slipping away. They still have a reinforcement in pocket 2. They actually have 2, just in case.
It's a lot of blue on blue according to the outlines here today. Luckily, not the case. It's G2 stacking themselves up to go for a very quick take into Trophy and Games Room right afterwards, but there's a player on the back of Attic that can really shut this down.
Oh, well, can they just get around this last corner? That's the sort of big cost, because they're deep diving. There's EFAC pushing to get one. They lose the second, but quickly pick back up, and there, Alemao at least getting Ranshiro on the back end. Ride still underneath and locked out by Shaiko, who's really started to turn into a bit of a tour de force here. Through the remaining half of the game, the 3 versus 2. Benja is obviously, well, I was going to say inside the site, but without much help and support. Now he's not. Just leaving Virtue and a kit that's a little bit isolated. He's trying to get the swing onto Shaiko. Inside kids. He's concerned about somebody coming up underneath him, because obviously Zulu was played before. They do have a player in that position. Pulls out the goo mine. Done more than enough. There's the last drop. There is 6-5.
Bride was just playing like a reverse boogie out there. He's playing right below, and every time he heard footsteps, he just started blasting with that shotgun going upwards and just taking lives as he went on. He was being a real menace in that round, and G2 will have to find a way to deal with that if that would have been repeated, but we're headed towards Supply and Laundry for the final round in regulation. An opportunity for G2 to still get the 3 points. Or for BDS to at least steal one away before we head to overtime.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
And which will it be? That's going to be the big question.
I mean, at this point, who knows? You toss it up. You find yourself looking towards where we were. It was a 6-1 situation. It was such a solid opener. And it's not that the first half was an entire sort of blindside, but it's stepping in. It's been defender-sided. Both teams are struggling with this final approach. It is a BDS backs against the wall situation. There's no two ways about that. They've just dug themselves in and refused to move, especially obviously, Shaiko keeps his name popping up in these situations. Bride as well did a very good back end to this game so far.
At the same time, it was only the first round that G2 was able to win in their attacks, so they instantly took away that buffer, but ever since, BDS have been able to get the upper hand of these rounds. So does that really mean that it's them against with the backs against the wall, or is it G2 currently that now have to perform if they want to get the 3 points, and otherwise they'll be forced into overtime because they have been the ones that have been in the lead for the majority of this game?
Ventura is expecting engagement. Alemao, had a storm of a first half of this game and has still made his name pop up on the kill feed a couple of times. He wants to get this quick shoulder shake and shimmy round onto the player on the corner. Just misses the end of it, pops the camera. He's taking a bit of quick control here of tower, but not all of it. As we see, revealed, hiding in the rafters, EFAC is waiting, ready to pounce at the right time with Doki coming to offer some support.
Trying to double it down right here. Alemao putting up some pressure, but the goo mines that are going off in the meantime as well are going to force him to make sure he falls back. There's no one there to instantly cover up on him either, and you really want to make sure that you're not exposing your legs too much when you're walking down staircases. It's why it's so difficult for Shields to usually do that, especially if you're not that Monty who has that full coverage. Liquefact still around on the big tower. All the way up on the top is going to be proving quite problematic. The grenade hops in and actually gets the injure on him. Are they going to be able to confirm that, though? Oh, misses the drone. It's going to be costing you so much time, Virtue.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a moment there. And it's 20 seconds that EFAC is unknowingly buying them by just being in this position. Obviously, you don't get the calls, you don't get the pop-ups. You've just got to try and check this with your eyes and your face. And, well, there's the check and there's the finish.
I think they just went for it. I don't hear any movement anymore. We're pretty sure he's down at that point. And a minute left on the clock. A man advantage now for G2, but still a lot of work to be done. The pillar is being heavily fortified right here by BDS. There's a lot of players around them there, so it's not really an option to go for the execute. You need to find a different approach here, and Bride actually the one holding that off with a mirror window, with 2 mirror windows being inside that closet.
They're waiting for this push, this final moment with all 9 players. We all know the importance of this round at this point, and they've lost EFAC, but he's bought them a lot of time. They're still kind of summing up how they want to make this approach. The fact that that is still softed, they're having to cover it with smoke, it just buys more of an idea of BDS going, well, they're not entirely pushing from this. The pressure is coming through now on towards the back of main stairs. They have Benja watching onto the hatch, drops into freezer and tries to find a fight around the corner, but drops it out. Alems gets the lockdown, the shotgun's in. Bride pops out Alemao, and Uno's now dropped inside. He gets a partially blind man, a 3 versus 2. They still have the man advantage, but they have barely any time. Alems is watching the cross. Uno's going to see if they can get the plant. The C4 just doesn't quite get the full angle. They push down the corridor. Virtue and Bride trade either side, but it's Virtue that gets that final kill, and G2 just about get the game.
On the dying seconds, they managed to win it. That C4 forced them off. They go back on the plant. 3 seconds left, counting down, and the cover is there. G2, they are victorious. They take 3 points, and they put themselves on top of their group, shared, of course, of the previous winners.
The Blast R6 Major in Copenhagen. Are we ready, Copenhagen? 24 teams from all around the world made the trip here to Denmark.
Okamesh is straight on inside. He finds one, looking for a second. Okamesh is just eating him up for lunch. Gomez, as he plays behind one of the remaining Kiva barricades, to be a big nitro here, and it's massive. trying to get ahead of it. Spots it moving down the stairs, and there it goes for VP. The free go for VP!
Everything falls to Sploit down in the 1v2 here. They're both focused on him. No matter.
We are now down to our Elite 8.
Surely not resets. He's making the 1v4 look so winnable. There's no way. Resets to ace to 1v4. Esk is trapped in a corner.
But next, he collects one, a second, a third.
Oh, he's just insane.
Something feels a little bit different today. It's Championship Sunday! 24 teams made the trip, 2 remain.
The defense, there comes 1 kill and 2.
It looks like there's one left standing. It's Vods against his old team. It could not be any more bittersweet.
Are they going to be able to close this out here and now?
Welcome back. G2 are victorious, and we do have our winners on the line. So let's get ready to ask them a few questions about how they had this matchup so far. Hello, Doki. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you so much. You had a great start with those 4 rounds, and then after that on your own attack, that didn't really go that well, did it?
No. I mean, Oregon's just defender-sided, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. Pretty happy overall.
All right, that's really good. How are things with Uno and Alemao, your new coach?
Yeah, I mean, our old coach was just so bad, man. Like, it's just so...
He's listening. I'd be careful if I was you.
I saw your scoreline, Jack. I don't know if you should talk much.
Yeah. I don't need to play good if my 2 teammates have 15 kills each, right? It's fine.
I guess so. It needed to happen sometime, right?
No, Uno and Romelio are really good. Like, one thing I think we're really happy about was the last round there. Like, we were able to plant. Like, the plant was the decision to make the round, to win the round. Sorry. And before, I don't think we necessarily had that voice in the team. So, like, in the last round, Uno really slowed us down and said, "Don't do anything. I'm going to plant a bomb. We're going to play for plant." And like, that's what we're missing. So I'm so glad that we actually got to show that on the last round, and then like a debut game, because like that's what we've been missing, and now we have it. So they're fitting in really good, and Romelio he's great. Like he had some pretty big shoes to fill, I guess, going off Fabian's legacy, but I think we swapped things around a little bit. Like Fabian was more on the team for trying to help us mentality-wise and stuff like that, and we focused on strat work ourselves as players. Like, that was our decision. And now that Romelio has came in, he's kind of more focused on the kind of strat side of things, and he's like coming up with like counters and stuff. So yeah, really good. Happy.
Yeah, that sounds really good indeed. And with this improvement, after Gamers 8, which didn't really go you guys' way, does it feel really good to now have beaten the Gamers 8 champions?
Yeah, I mean, BDS was a tough game to start off. The death group with. So I'm happy to get that win, but it's a long road ahead of us to the major, I guess. So one game at a time. Because I mean, they almost came back, right? BDS. So
they did. It was pretty close. Yeah, but you mentioned it. You're in a very stacked group, right? Is there one team in this group that you're really scared of, or even looking out forward to, that playing against, maybe?
Yeah, BDS.
That's the one team you're scared of. So you tick them off and you're ready to go to the major now.
Nah, I'm not scared of any team. So yeah, but BDS was a hard one to beat, I think. So yeah.
Okay, biggest hurdle already had. That's really good. Anything you want to say to the fans?
No, sorry for playing bad at Gamers 8. Yeah, try to play better next events, and That is it. Buy the Azami skin. I need some money and trying to think. Anything else, Fabian, I've missed?
No, you covered it all. Maybe
Covered
buy
it
you
all?
a few
Okay,
beers
yeah.
if they see you at the pub.
Few beers at the pub. Thank God that Fabian is here to remind me of that. A few beers at the pub. That's good.
All right, that's a creative one for sure. Thank you so much for your time. We hope you have a great rest of your evening. And maybe we'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah, will do. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Few beers at the pub to celebrate this victory, maybe?
I mean, Doki for sure is going there. But with his interview, it's actually something that we can lead on to immediately onto our next point, because Romalio with the counter strats, and that's something I want to bring up almost immediately with the clip that we've got for you guys, because the way that they play this game, it was completely set up after the way that Romalio wanted them to play it. If we get the clip up on the screen, if we look at round 1, they retake. This is something that G2 do a lot. They retake meeting, Carl gets a massive kill. On this second round, you see that the reinforcement on the right side here to top white, this is so made on purpose with the way of countering the way that BDS is attacking. Because the angle that you can play when you're on the staircase holding trophy is a head angle. It's really hard to challenge it. It's very easy to have just an attacker with a great gun just cutting down through the entire site. Here, you force the attacker to take a few more steps up so that he's either on the right side of the door or on the left side. With the new shotgun mechanics when you're ADS, what does Carl do? Sorry, Alemao, I just used the names because it's what I'm used to. He just goes out there, blasts 3 guys, round over. And this is completely set up for the way that G2 want to play the game. They want to retake with manpower and use that individual player skill that they have, because that's what they lived on this game. Look at how many kills both Alemao and Virtue got in defense. And then sure, they fell off a little bit towards the end of the game, but I was surprised they lost as many attacks as they did, because G2's attack on this map they would be outstanding in practice. I was surprised they got 5 rounds in defense. I was expecting more than that in terms of how much G2 should win with, but they won and they should be happy. Mentality really reset.
I mean, you just call him Carl because you know big players like that. You know, you're close to him. It's not a big deal to you. That's...
Nah, he's only got 1 world championship. He's nothing to me.
Oh, right. Okay, well, we also saw a little bit of Rem. Rem really effective, not so much.
It was used quite nicely, actually. I think, there's a specific case use for it. I think particularly in this game where Valkyrie was open. We saw the Valkyrie C4s pre-placed with the Valk cam. Doesn't matter, Alems had thrown his Ram gadget in, set them both off. There was 3 cam at the time, but he actually did get a kill down the vertical after he was following his Ram gadget as well. We've seen it once in EUL. They won the round once. 100% win rate, Ram's OP. That's all I'm going to say on the map.
The most important thing is if you're a Valk player, look at those cams where they were placed, because they were really good and they were really hard for the opponents to see. So sorry, G2, for spoiling your fun. Look at those cams because they're going to use them again.
Right, that's something to go after indeed. But indeed, Doki said he wasn't dropping the most kills, but is that really necessary? It puts a good prospect for his team being able to step up if he's not having the greatest of days.
Look, I think G2, we've known about Doki and Benjo, and I think they're kind of the key, people that you would turn to for big kill games. Today, it was Virtue and Alemao. Now, Alemao, we've seen him have these games. We know he's got that talent. He's got that aggression, that ability to have those games. But one player we don't often see is Virtue. And I thought Virtue was excellent today. He usually gets a lot of his kills through trading out his teammates' deaths, but he was getting a lot of big, important kills today and stepping up. Him and Alemao, especially through them first, 2 or 3 rounds particularly, we're getting huge kills, huge numbers. And it's very nice to see. It's nice to see that if Benja and Doki are having quiet games, that there are players like Virtue and Alemao that can step up there.
I mean, if we look at the flexibility that we had in G2 today with operator swaps, because if you look at Benya, he didn't play his usual role. Jake a little bit covered for him and took some of his operators away from him. Could be that he had a really good day and sometimes you just, I'll take the operators because I'm fragging. But they just swapped around a little bit and it seemed to really work out.
One thing that I've just noticed on the scoreboard there as well was Alemao in 0 entry engagements. During stage 1 in Copenhagen, he had a bit of a problem where he was losing way too many entry engagements. Him getting into 0 is probably quite good for G2 there to get the people that need to be in them.
Yeah, there's just so much talent in this team that anybody can really fill any role. But if we go over to BDS a little bit, I was quite disappointed with their attacks. It looked really like they were completely countered.
It looks like the map that they don't really want to play Oregon. And you can see from their attacks, you showed the clip of the top white being reinforced that was a direct counter to BDS, and you said it was about G2 playing retake. But for me, that's also a counter to BDS, because on Kidstorm's defense on Oregon, they've been doing that west clear since I was operating when they were doing that West Clear.
2015 or something?
Yeah, like forever they've been doing that West Clear. You know it's coming. And it used to be a big problem for BDS is that they could be so easily countered. They did work on it, but I think if you're taking them to a map like Oregon, clearly lower down the preference, they are just going to revert back to defaults. And we come back to that map ban phase where they maybe did slip up a little bit with those bans.
But now for BDS, right, there's maybe a very positive thing. They don't have to play tomorrow so they can have the time to get their stuff together. Or they don't have to play tomorrow and it's a negative thing because they watch other teams extend their lead they have on them.
I don't think that it matters much to BDS if they play tomorrow or not. They're such a mentally strong team. I think it can be nice when you lose to have the next day off, so you don't have to play immediately. But it's not that big of a deal for them, I don't think. You could see on their faces, and this is something I want to highlight on Carl as well. Like the face I saw on him, I haven't seen since SI, and that's a while ago. He's been very down and quite moody when I was there. And seeing his face today when they were doing really good, when he was doing individually really good as well, it's just a completely different player. Going back to BDS, though, they seemed a little bit down when they were struggling in their attacks. And then all of a sudden, when we got into the 6-5, and they've just won that last round, so we go to the last round in regular time, you can see that they're happy. They're enjoying themselves. Sure, they still lost it, but if they're managing to go back to that mindset for the next play day, they'll be fine.
But this might be a really difficult question to answer. Is this looking like BDS will have a repeat of stage 1 where, you know, they come off a really good SI and then don't really manage to qualify in stage 1? Is it looking like the same thing, or is it looking like we do get something from them?
Will there be a repeat? We don't know. Is there a massive possibility now that BDS do not go to 6 Invitational? Yes. Because they missed out stage 1, they didn't go to the major. They're in the group of death, they've started off with a 0-point, deficit. Depending on other results, it might be hard to get into deciders, it might be hard to go to the major. Most teams, if you've not been to the major in stage 1 and done, got to top 8, are now going to have to get to the major to make 6 Invitational. So, yeah, they might be mentally okay, but after one loss, the pressure is now stacked against them.
It's such a tight group. It can go either way. It's so hard to call for.
I mean, that's the thing, is other teams could just pop up with a result here that helps BDS or not, because it is so evenly matched being the group of death.
Everything is still in their own hands, though. 3 maps left for them to play, so they can gather 9 points. They can make it to the playoffs. Anything can happen.
It is. A lot of questions we'll get answers for later on, but we do have one more game scheduled for you, and it's a very exciting one, actually. Koi taking on Wild will be our last game of the day after a short break.